Darin Atwater is the founder of Soulful Symphony, an orchestra made up of mostly African-American and Latino musicians. The orchestra has cultivated thousands of fans during its almost 20 years in Baltimore, and it will be starting a residency at the Merriweather Post Pavilion this month. Darin is here to tell us more about it. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
I'm happy to have you here. So tell us more about Soulful Symphony.
Soulful Symphony is an orchestra I founded in 2000. It was based off a work of music that was called Song in a Strange Land.
Okay.
If the spiritual was the first time it was kind of reunited with the symphony orchestra. Evolved as an a cappella tradition because the slaves weren't able to use their instruments on plantations. So as a result, we don't have this formulation of a cappella and spiritual music that's formulated around the symphony orchestra.
So the voice became the instrument.
So I wanted to reintroduce that to the orchestra, and then also have an orchestra that was reflective of the experience of our ancestors.
Yes,
and, kind of represent
and reflective of the community. I know that you really make sure that you have African American and Latino players for the most part. Why is that so important?
I mean, it's reflective of the diversity, and that's not only in our culture and our community, but in the music. It's like the fountainhead of all of our music is African American spirituals, and off of that, blues and jazz and rock and roll have kind of spun. So we try to kind of amalgamate all of those things into an experience that is both visual optics in terms of who we look like and the diversity of our community, but also sonically what's happening in the culture. So.
And talk about that experience, because when you see Soulful Symphony perform, it is an experience.
Yeah, it's unlike anything else. It's typically when you go hear a symphony orchestra, you're hearing, the Western European canon.
Yes.
Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms. When you come here, Soulful Symphony, you're hearing the music of our soil. So you're hearing everything from my original music to Stevie Wonder. We've done a hip-hop symphony. So it's your experience coming back to you on stage. And the spectacle of the symphony orchestra, which you don't leave, which sonically is amazing to have 85 musicians kind of playing in concert together.
85?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a huge sound.
You're not playing around.
Nah, we're serious.
And so what's your backstory? What is your history as a musician, and that you came to this point that you wanted to gather all these musicians to make this sort of music?
Yeah, well, I grew up playing piano. My grandmother sent us a piano, a Wurlitzer. She lived in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, sent us a piano here. So I kind of grew up playing piano in church, played some jazz and played some pop. It wasn't too cool to be a piano player when I was coming up, so I would play like Rocky and cartoons and stuff for the homies just to kind of get my street cred up. And then I went to Morgan State University and was introduced to Dr. Nathan Carter, the world-renowned Morgan State University choir. And every year they performed one concert with Baltimore Symphony. And it was like my life went from black and white to Technicolor in that moment, because I got a framework for what was happening with this whole symphony orchestra around our traditional music.
Isn't that amazing when you can pinpoint exactly when your passion takes root?
Absolutely.
And you're doing that for so many other people now. So why, I mean, I guess I can sort of answer this question myself, but I'll ask you. Why give back in this way, where you could just be out there performing yourself, but to actually get these other musicians and come together and sort of do the same thing that was done for you back in the day?
That's a great question. I met Wynton Marsalis in '97, who introduced me to Albert Murray. He took me to Harlem. Albert Murray was a protean figure. He wrote the biography of Count Basie and Ralph Ellison. And he said, Darin, the power of an individual, when you combine that with an organization and an institution, engineers culture in a way that an individual can't do as a singular artist. So a singular artist comes to town, he performs, she performs, they leave town, you're inspired, but transformation comes when you create something like an organization like Soulful Symphony, where it engineers and shapes the culture and you become a fabric of the community in a certain sense. So it's been a sacrifice for me personally, because as an artist, like you're saying,
you want all the attention on yourself. Like, no, why can't it just be me? Well, no, that's great. And you're in residence right now at Merriweather.
Yes, which is huge also.
It's huge.
It's amazing. 19 years we've been all around Baltimore, Meyerhoff, Hippodrome, but to have a home of our own where we can kind of also not only marry what we do musically, but the facility kind of speaks and reflects and mirrors what we're doing in terms of what we're doing on stage. So it's just great. Interestingly enough, that facility was built for the NSO in '67. So 50 years later, to have the orchestra of Soulful Symphony kind of book in that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you've got shows in June, July, and September. We can find out more by going to merriweathermusic.com. Thank you so much for being here, Darin. Really appreciate it. And we will be right back right after this. You know what? Here's a sneak peek. Wade in the water.
above the water.